This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
All right, so Chapter 7 is the itch, and it has the chapter symbol of the snake and the wheel. Very common symbol in this book.
Mm-hmm. Right. A lot of prophecies and a lot of leading to major events.
Yeah, so I guess I'll read us in. The following day brought still more names that met the criteria, and in larger number, all with vague reference to Dragonmount for the place of birth. Moiraine realized that she and Swan would never see a name with "born on the slopes of Dragonmount" attached. The prophecies of the dragon were known to many people, though often known wrongly, especially among the common folk, but the mountain's connection remained in even the most nonsensical versions. No woman would want to admit that she had birthed a son who would channel the power one day, with all that entailed, the child of her body doomed to madness and terror. How much less would she admit to bearing a child who might become the dragon reborn? She could not deny Dragonmount entirely, or her acquaintances might call her on it. Yet, near the mountain, or in sight of it, was safe enough. The child they sought would surely be hidden behind such a half-truth. And yeah, this is all very true. Does preclude the notion that the mother died in childbirth.
Right.
She never once thinks about the babies who kill their moms on the way out and thus are being taken care of by the father or an aunt or an orphanage society or something.
No, but I feel like the offer takes those people into account by being like, bring forth the baby and you get the money.
Oh, for sure. But she's not thinking about it. She's always thinking like, I'm going to go interview some mother and have to convince her that her child is the dragon reborn. And it's like, there is no mother to convince in this case. You're hunting down a bachelor who grabbed a baby that he had no connection to before he stumbled upon it in the snow.
Hey. Tam is not a bachelor. He is married to Carrie Althor, and she has wanted a baby for a while and just hasn't been able to have one.
That's true. He is actually very married.
Do not besmirch the name of my...
I forgot about Carrie Althor because I'm a bad reader.
His whole mother that, like, the Dark One has her soul, apparently.
Right. Yeah. But still, someone who has no connection to the biological mother.
Yes.
And presumably bounces fairly quickly from the battlefield because, you know, he's not recovering from the throes of giving birth and waiting to receive this bounty, right? Like, he's out of there. So it's just funny. She's thinking about, like, how to game out talking to a mother. And it's like, yeah, the mother in this case is going to be, over a decade dead? Even if Kari was the mother, she's, like, Rand's long since been orphaned in the mother department. Even if Kari was going to take on that story, like, Kari's dead.
So what do you think? So, I mean, one would assume this is days after Rand's birth, because I assume he was born at the moment of the foretelling and found in the snow, you know, later that day by Tam. So where is he now, right? Because we assume he's retreating with the Illianer army after the war is over, right?
I would assume so. I would assume as soon as the engagement's over, he's moving out with military precision. He's not lingering.
But he's also returns to the Two Rivers with an infant. And so I'm assuming that, like, once the war is over and they return to Ilion, he immediately returns to the Two Rivers. Or does he say, hey, goes back to camp, grabs Carrie and says, we're done. We're heading back to the Two Rivers now that we have a baby, and doesn't return to Ilion at all?
I mean, she would have been a camp follower in theory.
Right.
Right. Because he met her out and about, right? She was not from the Two Rivers. He met her on his travels, and when he gets the baby, he goes back to his wife and says, look, I found you a baby. I'm basically a stork now.
Can we keep it? It followed me home.
Right, yeah. So that implies that he picked her up en route maybe as a handsome soldier, which means that maybe she came along on campaign as a camp follower, or maybe he met her as a camp follower. Maybe that's where she was. Maybe she wanted adventure and went to follow an army around and meet a cute soldier. And then, yeah, maybe as soon as the war is over, he went to his, you know, commanding officer and said, I'm resigning. Goodbye. Thank you. Fun war. I would like my exit bonus, and I'm going home with my new family. Which is probably very reasonable, right? They were probably shedding soldiers the whole way home, every one of these armies.
Right. And I assume that he would travel with them, right? Because to go from White Tower the army's going to head down to Ilion, and then he's going to probably debark. They're going to head down the river, one would assume, because that's the easiest way to get south down the river Aranin. And so then he would probably disembark around Camelin, maybe Kyrian, that area, and head west via road. So I kind of imagine them staying with the army until the army gets to the intersection of the Aranin and like Kyrian.
Yeah, sure. But still, yeah, he's going to head home, right? There's no tales of Rand and Kari like spending the first 5 years of Rand's life on the road while Tam trails the army, right? They head home.
No, and I think Nynaeve has memories of him returning to the Two Rivers with an infant Rand, right? So it has to be very soon, considering they have to travel across a huge part of the continent, right? The travel must have been, no more than a couple of months. So one would assume there's no real event. Anyway, so I'm just curious, like, what road is he on? Like, what road is he actually taking to get away from all of these armies? And, like, where should they be looking if they wanted to find him as an infant? Probably with the army of Ilion, right? For a while, at least until they retreat. That's my assumption.
Yeah. But yeah, and Tam would never have applied for that bounty because, why would he?
Right.
He's already packing up and leaving by the time the news even hits him. And he's like, nah, I found this baby on the slopes of Dragon Mountain. I'm just going to not engage with that. That's fine. I don't need that 100 gold crowns. I have a soldier's pension. It'll be fine. Also, we got to shout out Marzipan's comment, a stork instead of a heron. I should have thought heron, but there you go. That's awesome.
So she's sort of thinking, yeah, someone's got to go find these babies, which of course it's going to be her, right?
Someone's got to go interview all these women. Someone's going to have to go out there and comb through this apparently random list of women and find the real Dragon Reborn. And clearly it's going to be her. Like, it's so obvious that she's psyching herself up to decide that it's her.
It seems like the Emerald sees her writing the names down, sees the book she's written.
Oh, yes, she does. She might not be Varen, but Tamra sees things.
Right. I also, we'll get to it later, but I 100% think that the book is also discovered in their clothes later during the testing.
I'm not sure. We'll get there when we get there.
Okay, we'll get there when we get there. So anyway, the parallels between their testing and the one with Egwene when she has to tear on Brielle. Yeah. The parallels are there. Parallels are there. But we'll get to that.
But yeah, no, Tamra definitely sees that book, sees the two of them being suddenly eager to do clerical work, and she can do arithmetic. She knows that 2 + 2 = 4. She still, though, very carefully does not formally bring them into the search, does not
plausible
ever
deniability.
Acknowledge them as Aes Sedai, who were part of her cast of hunters. She very carefully just walls that off and just allows it.
Despite sending them to be messengers to all of her searchers. She's obviously including them, but like not doing it consciously or in any official way.
She manages to Aes Sedai proof her future torture session for these two. Like, part of her, I think, knows that she is playing potentially a game with lethal consequences for herself, and is just like, I'm just gonna leave that one off the books, even in my head. They're not on the books. They just exist peripheral to all of this, and that's convenient for them. Anyway, moving on with Amyrlin business.
I like this line. Everyone knew Suan's dislike of clerical work, and she ends up being the Amyrlin, which is all clerical work.
I know. She hates being inside. She hates paperwork. She hates being polite. She hates literally all of the things you need to do to be Amyrlin. But she's very good at the subterfuge and the politics and the puzzles, which is why you have an Amyrlin. And that's why she gets strong-armed into it. We
get to meet Karenni.
Yeah, Karine, who a lot of us were very confused about when the TV show used her as a character. And it turns out, bam, there she is.
Yeah, I mean, except she dies in the New Spring, which is why everyone's so confused when she shows up in the TV show.
Well, I mean, this is true for so many of the characters that they brought up in the TV show. So many of them. They were like, we're going to be clever and pull names from New Spring that only the real fans will recognize, but also then gives them completely separate plots, so that way they're nothing like their Real Spring counterparts, and it falls flat on its face, but whatever.
And just all the funny statements here, like from the Green, oh my God, they're gonna ride in the forefront of the last battle. Pfft, they're a fart in the wind during the last battle. I mean, they're like they're part of the attack But the Green Aja ends up being like less than 50 channeling sisters, which is like just not that important of a force in the last battle.
Right, yeah. So what we're doing is we're thinking about the green, right, as we go to Kareen's rooms. And yeah, this line, or paragraph, couple of lines, it's so annoying. No Aes Sedai had ridden to war since the Trolloc Wars, but when the last battle came, the battle Aja would ride in the forefront. Until then, they fought for justice, where it often could be obtained only through their warders' swords. But that was just what they did while they waited on Tarmangaiden. And I'm like, the Reds are doing more training for a battle than you. You're relying on your warders to do all the work while you just sit and wait on your general badassery reputation for the last battle. Like, why do you not train to... I get not being a ninja in rural villages. I get having your warder do more conventional violence. But, like, fart in the wind is generous for what they contribute to the last battle. You know, the individuals
right.
who have made relationships through force and who know how to use ter'angreal are far more effective than Green Aja battle formations and training.
There's not enough of them for it to matter, really. They should be recruiting, right?
Well, even if I don't even care about the numbers, like the numbers is beside the point. Like they don't train with the power to fight channelers. They don't train in battle weaves. They don't do circles that allow them to make the most out of very few channelers, right? Like I'd be so much more impressed if there was half the greens with twice the training. Like they're just running around being like, yeah, we're sexy and we know it. And that's totally going to help.
Listen, polyamory takes a lot of communication, and that doesn't leave time for a lot of things like training and jobs.
It's the wheel of time. What communication?
So yeah, that's just a lot of background about the greens and the Ajas and all that kind of stuff.
And warders, which specifically Rena Halfdan, who has the two warders sparring, Waylon and Elias. We get to see Elias before he goes wolfy. Oh, yeah. Rena Halfdan, who somehow made a square face lovely and a stocky build both elegant and graceful, was urging them, these two warders, along with a wide smile. Well struck, Waylon. Oh, very well struck, Elias.
Nice catch.
And I believe that he calls her Rena when he's talking to Perrin later. I believe he does name her in the mainline books. But yeah, here's Elias. One assumes less than a year before his transition to wolfiness. I think that his persecution that forces him to kill a warder, which I wonder if it's his fellow warder here. I'm assuming that happens during the vileness, which again is like somewhere in the next year or 3. So he's about to go wolf brother in the not too distant future.
But he essentially is prosecuted, and they try to kill him because he is part of the vileness. He's part of someone who might be lucky, who might have powers. They're trying to wipe him out in order to get to Rand.
Right, exactly. And he never says what warder he kills, but I can't help but wonder if it was his co-warder who we see sparring here, because that would be the person closest to him who's like, brother, don't make me do this. This is a very tearful, terrible fight kind of vibe. That would just be the most heartbreaking. He doesn't seem to feel very sad about it when he talks about it later, so maybe it was a different warder. But, you know, that would be the most heartbreaking.
She, by the way, becomes a sitter during the split. She's an older, and she raises Egwene to Amyrlin in The Gathering Storm.
So she's one of the loyalist sitters.
Yes.
But she's raised in the aftermath of the split. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And here we get the mention of the itch, that is the title of the chapter, which is Moiraine being, you know, at least half of us people who are fans of the Wheel of Time.
Mm-hmm. Something we don't know.
Once she identified something she did not know, the ignorance became an itch on her shoulder blade, just beyond reach. Like, I'm sure that describes at least half of us. Probably both of us on this call.
But that for sure. We go to Karina's rooms. I did notice a blacksmith's hammer with the head split, and I was...
Yeah, so she's got artifacts on artifacts, and I also noticed she's got a blacksmith's hammer, a single fat fire drop, which is like so close to a ruby.
A dagger's adorned with gems and gold. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and daggers with plain wooden hilts, a lion's skull, a gauntlet stained with blood. Like, there's just a treasure trove of cool objects.
But these objects all sound like they could be from the Corinthian cycle, right? Like the lion's skull, because you've got the Lion of Andor. You've got like a bloody fist. You've got an axe for the blacksmiths. It sounds like she's doing Koreathon cycle prophecy stuff, and she's just not on the right path, or her timing isn't quite right. They're like, she's looking for the broken blacksmith. She's looking for
something. Yeah. But then it's also like glazed bowls and vases and pottery, and they're just souvenirs of her travels. But yeah, it's like,
sure.
How is there not a Terangrial or a prophetic item or a token she's holding on to because it reminds her of a foretelling she had? Like, how? No, it's just a random assortment of objects. Or is it?
We get two of her warders.
Kirill, who was not in the show, and Stepan, who was in the show.
Mm-hmm. Who's her third warder? She has a third one, right?
Does she? Oh, I guess it just said
two of her warders.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. I don't recall. You'll have to look that up elsewhere.
I am on it. Interesting. The at least from what I can see, those are the only two warders that are named, even though it says of two of her warders.
It does imply there's a third.
It does imply there's a third, right? That's what that whole two of.
Yeah. Huh. Slip of the pen, perhaps.
She reportedly fell off a ship in the river during a storm and drowned. Again, yeah, weird phrasing, but it seems like, as far as we can tell, those are the only two that are ever named. Because if those were her only two, I would assume the phrasing would be Kareen's two warders instead of two of Kareen's warders. But yep, those are the only two who are ever named. So we got to move on.
So yeah, Kareen is a wanderlust Aes Sedai, right? That's why she has all the artifacts. She has a very efficient haircut. She's hardly ever in the tower. And yeah, makes a lot of sense for her to be one of the first Aes Sedai for Tamra to reach out to. Like, she's got all the personality characteristics of being very thorough, very fair, very adhering to the law, and also loves to travel. So it's not going to be hard to convince her to leave and go on this mission.
And the letter, just that she's basically, Moiraine is carrying this letter to her that just is a summons. One would assume to, eventually give the information about hunting the, Dragon Reborn.
Yeah, because Tamra's not going to put any of that in writing. It's just a summons for something very urgent, which, Moiraine puts that together with that and Swan doing that, taking a similar message to a woman of a different Aja with the same kind of adherence to the law. Moiraine takes those two...
Aisha Ravenos.
Yeah. Moiraine takes those two pieces of information and says she's putting together a crack team of searchers that she's sending out on a, super secret mission. And that is, in fact, what's happening. Swan misses this one puzzle, but that's totally what's happening. So what happens with Aisha?
They try and differentiate between Game of Houses and puzzles, and I don't know. It feels like a distinction without a difference to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a potato kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind. Like, not all puzzles are head games. Not all puzzles are politics. Not all puzzles are geopolitical maneuvering. Some puzzles really are interlocking bits of metal. Some puzzles are agriculture. But the way that the Aes Sedai look at the world and use the terms, they are basically synonyms.
Because I would argue that the personality puzzle is a subset of puzzle.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, there's, like, human puzzles, and then there's, like, mechanical puzzles. Right? Some of us are very good with mechanical, tactile puzzles and are horrible at human head games and politics.
This kind of feels like when she misses the fact that all the sitters are young. I mean, she gets that fact, but she misses why. And that why is because everyone thought they'd just recombine the towers and they didn't want to put permanent sitters in place that they would have to fight to unseat later. So they put young girls in charge. And it's like, she gets the puzzle, but she misses the why. She doesn't understand the reasoning that people have behind it. And I'd argue that's also why she falls as an Amyrlin, is she gets the solutions, but she really misses the whys, like the why people do things.
She doesn't really care why people do things. That's kind of the thing with being headstrong and power strong. And then being politically strong is you don't have to care why people do things because you can just make them do what you want. And then you miss the part where they're fomenting rebellion behind your back because they don't want to do that.
And that fermenting starts in these chapters with Elida.
It does.
I thought there was this interesting parallel here where they're talking about all this, searches to look for the boy child, and she's like, she starts off the chapter thinking, if I'm quiet in the presence of these sisters, they just don't think of me as important, and so they'll talk around me. And then later they start talking in front of servants because they're not important. And I'm like, you're just doing it one level down. You're just lowering your voice a little bit, to acknowledge it. But you are still talking in front of the servants and just assuming that they don't matter because they're not listening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the hierarchies all the way down.
Uh-huh. So, again, just love the parallels that Jordan put. Again, love letter to Jordan, even in New Spring, which I might consider my least favorite of the Wheel of Time books, simply because of the way it's structured and the way the story it's telling, right? Like the details he puts in and the parallels and the callbacks and the foreshadowing is always so good. I swear to God, he's doing it unconsciously.
It's just how he thinks.
That's just how he thinks.
What the inner landscape of his storytelling brain was like.
He's always relating two unrelated things in a chapter to each other, or making parallels, or bringing things together, or showing you just really cool analogies or really cool parallels in a way that it's so detailed that I can't. This stuff is so good.
Yeah. And then we get a list of names of Aes Sedai, and I was thinking about how we don't have to look any of them up because we know what happens to all of them. They die in this book. They all die mysteriously. This whole parade of Aes Sedai, none of them makes it through categorically. That's the whole point.
They're taken down by the Black Aja.
And it's like several people, right? I think is it 20 people or is it less than 20? It's a lot. It's
like 3. What list are you talking about?
I'm talking about the next day Tomr sent 3 more messages.
Yeah. Marilyn Argania, Valerie Gavorny, and Ludis Danny. Wow, I'm sorry, I'm butchering those names. But there's 3 names in that paragraph.
Yeah, and then she says she doesn't see any more messages go out, but she doesn't know if there's others. And then later, when we get to the how many people are murdered, I think we might get a better number of all the Aes Sedai that are mysteriously dying. But my point is, they lose more than an annual amount of Aes Sedai that they would add.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of those instances when the White Tower stair steps down in the number of Aes Sedai that they're going to have, because they lose like well over 5 women, I'm pretty sure, in a year, less than a year period, because of killing off this conspiracy. And like we were talking earlier, they're graduating as many as 3 a year. As many as, right? So this is another one of those instances where the Black Aja just does one little killing spree, and now the number of Aes Sedai is appreciably lower.
Mm-hmm. Although I think this is one of those years where they get maybe more than usual.
Maybe that's why. Maybe the pattern was like, no, we can't go below a bare minimum. I need lots of Aes Sedai to mature this year since you're going to kill so many off, Ishamael. And another Aes Sedai whose name does not move forward, I don't believe, is raised to Keeper. Aledra Najaf?
Yeah, I looked her up. Yeah, and basically she's in New Spring a lot. She eats Moiraine and Suian's pies and gets sick, and that's the last time we ever hear from her. So the pies kill her. That's my conclusion.
The 2 people we know aren't dark friends. So that's cool. She has a bit of characterization here, but she presumably dies of natural causes in the intervening 20 years because she does not show up in either like a murder hit list or in the future books.
Well, then again, Tamara is killed as part of the murder hit list, and one would think they would take out her warder as well in that murder.
Keeper,
yes.
That's a good point. That maybe when you take out the Amerlin, you just automatically take out the Keeper as well. They're a package deal.
But the Amerlin died of natural causes, so maybe not.
Hey, what happens to Aledra when Tamra dies?
No, it's not stated anywhere.
We'll have to speculate about that when we get there and see if we can find any clue. And the last thing I have in this chapter is, are you having trouble sleeping? Some of the brown Aja know things about herbs. And we do see that in the later books. But should be the yellows. Like, I'm like, why are we not going? Like, okay, so my 2 thoughts are either this is a mistake That's a simple explanation. Or that the yellows are so dismissive of herbal medicines that only the browns are actually like, oh yeah, no, I mean, like a tincture of this, that, and the other does help with sleep. Like it's not real healing, but you know, we're scientists. It's fine.
The yellows mock Nynaeve for her knowledge of herbs. So only a brown would have that knowledge because it's separate from, they're just acquiring knowledge that's not part of healing, and they're not violating
Right.
the magic healing tincture of like, oh yeah, no, we use magic to heal. Like yellows have no interest in herbs because they have magic to heal. So the browns have the general knowledge of herbs that the yellows should.
And that's funny to me. That is an example of a silo inside an ivory tower getting really toxic. Because yeah, I mean, like Varen, you know, knows to go to various women for herbal teas and tinctures throughout the books, right? She relies on herbal medicine repeatedly, and she uses plants as her cipher, right? Plants are the language that she uses for the cipher of her book. Clearly, herbalism is a way bigger deal in the brown than it is in the yellow, and that's just a hilarious wasted opportunity.
And the last thing I sort of have is, again, references to the dreams that Moiraine is having, the disturbing dreams. I want those to be the unshielded dreams of some channeler that she's picking up on.
But she shields her dreams already, so I don't think it's happening. I think it's just what's inside her. As Rand says, you can't shield from what's inside your head. So, but yeah, that's all I got.
Which takes us to Chapter 8, Shreds of Serenity, and it's a Suian fish chapter header.
Yes, the symbol is the fish. We have some variety because if we're going to have Moiraine, we're going to have Swan, which means we're going to have the snake in the wheel, and we're going to have the fish. I guess the Calrianan symbol exists too, but that's not usually used for Moiraine.
Swan, no.
So yeah, let's see. We're starting out with the whole thing about lessons, right? Swan and Moiraine are getting their lessons when they can, but the Aes Sedai don't want to teach lessons because all the accepted are out collecting names, and so they have to teach the novices, and it's this whole petty scarcity drama.
Also, they're spending all day, you know, in an office copying names, which is like, why is that leaving me so tired? I'm like, yeah, office jobs can, like, that's repetitive, boring. Like, you can be exhausted after 8 hours of copying down names and trying to read, like, bad handwriting and all that kind of stuff.
Doing any task for all day is a strain just on your brain to stay focused on that and not to be switching it up. And then, yeah, the puzzle solving of bad handwriting, not a fun puzzle, in my opinion. I have attempted to do some handwriting distinguishing, like citizen science projects or like reading primary documents for genealogy, and ow, it hurts my little brain. So yeah. And then we've got this line that is foreshadowing for what comes later in our reading section. Paltry irritations sometimes had a way of festering into lifelong antagonisms. And she's thinking about the Aes Sedai in general, but this happens with Elida.
You know what I love, what I find really funny, is you and I, we look at the same, like, 3 pages of text, and out of all those, the only line I have highlighted is the one you read. Like, in those 3 pages of text. It's amazing how often we come to, and we don't collaborate ahead of time, but we often come to the same conclusions looking at the same text about the things we want to talk about.
We have one brain cell.
I've got about half of one. You've got half of one.
Yeah, we've got one real-time brain cell between us.
But yeah, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing that happens is Elida thinks they rat on her, and so she turns on them for life.
Yeah. Yeah, she has this weird positive obsession with them, which then becomes a weird negative obsession. And it's like, you could have just not in the first place.
Did she single white female their asses?
I guess.
It's not exactly the same, but, you know, the obsession.
It's not healthy. It's what it's not. So, yeah, Moiraine is obsessed with how the Aes Sedai are not leaving yet. She's burning with the urgency of a 20-year-old, and they are being chill because they know that they're out looking for an infant, so they can take a few months to organize.
I wondered about that. I wondered why someone wasn't setting out immediately, or maybe there is someone who set out immediately and she missed it. Like, why isn't there more urgency? Are they waiting for all the names to come in? Like, what's the deal?
I figured You don't want to have those names floating around by career. If you're going to have them written down, you want them only on the person who's supposed to have the list, I think. I think they're waiting on the lists. I really do. They're just learning, they're studying. She really wants to get tested even though she's super not ready, right? Like they're just learning their academics now, like what they've learned with the power they've learned, right? Like she really is ready to test, but also she's totally not ready to test, but she wants to test.
That is interesting to me because it feels like Suian can just knock out the 100 weaves pretty easily. And we see later, like, Nynaeve and Elaine, like, they have no problem knocking out the 100 weaves. It's just not something they really need to practice for. And here we see her desperately trying to do it. And is it a difference in power level? What's going on with Moiraine that these 100 weaves seem so difficult for her to master? It's like she doesn't have the serenity of the later Moiraine.
I think part of it is that Jordan likes to have people be good at things when they're extra powerful, and Moiraine is not extra powerful, so she has to struggle. But I think it also has a lot to do with her serenity, but her inner metal, right? Like she hasn't truly been through anything hard in her life, right?
Right. She's kind of been a spoiled princess.
She hasn't been forced to get into that survival headspace. She's never, like Siuan was like pulled into an alley by 3 drunk men as a teenager, right? Which may very well have been how she learned to channel. But like Moiraine, I don't think has ever been in that kind of a situation. And the test is her first experience of that. I mean, to some extent, her accepted test probably put her through something that was also extreme for her. But yeah, I think that it's supposed to just show how much she really hasn't been pushed to like stare her own mortality in the face. And yeah, Jordan thinks that she's spoiled. And so he's writing her to be, a little bit weak, not weak in personality, but just, having less metal because she's a spoiled princess. But she'll get over it through trauma, right? That's also part of Jordan's thesis is like with enough trauma, you can become a fully well-rounded person.
Someone who went through war.
Yeah, that seems to be how the Aes Sedai approach stuff is you need to have the trauma of a war veteran, whether or not you've been to war. And then you'll be ready to serve with responsibility in a centuries-long quest to not be a dick. I don't know if I agree with that, but I think that Jordan's got a pretty coherent world-building thing going here.
The next bit is got Elid coming in, sort of spouting off. Elid, again, is the one who disappears through the testing for Aes Sedai.
Okay, so Elid is the one that dies, and Elin is the one that is just a really, really old accepted by the time she takes the test.
Yes.
Okay, Elid for death, D for death. I can do this. I can remember this.
Oh, that works.
But yeah, she's beautiful. She's ambitious. She's perfect. She's really hard to hate because she's not even annoying. Like she's hateable because she's so perfect, right? Like
Right.
And then that's part of why her death shakes everyone is because she's just so fucking perfect.
What does it say? She was always telling you what she intended to do, and she almost always did it too. That hardly seemed fair. And it's just like she sets goals and she goes and does them. And it's like you those kind of people who you just expect to be successful over and over and over and over again, and to have someone like that disappear. It's like having someone, just a friend of mine in college died in a car crash and was that kind of person where just you expected them to go on and be an incredibly successful person in the rest of their life, and to have them disappear like that is shocking in a way that is hard to articulate, like hard to really even, it feels like there's a void in the world where you're like, no, that person was supposed to go do something and be something.
Right. When someone seems like charmed, like they have Taviran potential to just get what they want and they're on the up and up and everything's going great. And then, some freak accident just takes them out. Something that should have been normal, should have been manageable. Yeah, I also knew a guy who died in a similar way where it's just like, not him though. He was doing all that stuff. Like, what do you mean he got hit in a random accident and died instantly? That doesn't make sense. Yeah, so Elid is definitely that person where you're like, I was expecting to spend the rest of my life being mad at how successful they are. What do you mean they're dead? That makes no sense. She's exactly that person. Yeah, she is the epitome of the good die young, right? And we have no idea what killed her. It's just the test. It's not like the accepted test where like you choose to stay because you're weak-willed or whatever. Like the Aes Sedai test is just survival.
You can still fail if you survive but don't do it calmly enough.
Which is dumb, but it's not like the temptation to stay is really part of the test, right? That's very limited to the accepted test from what we see.
But like, I assume if she'd gotten bitten by any of the spiders with poison that would kill her, she would die, and that would be the end of it, right? Like, she's facing Trollocs. There's dangers in this Teleron Riyadh, because that's what the test is. It's a version of Teleron Riyadh that's just, under a little more control.
So yeah, Elid is sharing gossip that, pretty accurately sums up what's actually happening.
And I agree. I think there are multiple foretellings from Katara. I think that they knew, like, this isn't the first he is born now. I don't think that's the only foretelling they have. Like, there's too many indications that they expected something significant to happen on this day.
Okay, but.
Okay. Yeah, throw it out.
Adalorna, she's an Aes Sedai. Is she the head of the Green, or is she one of the Black Sisters? Because this is finally a name of an Aes Sedai who is an Aes Sedai now and later.
I think she's the head Green. Let me double check that. Yeah, she's Captain General of the Green.
Okay, because for a second I was like, is this a dark friend Aes Sedai who's like sharing dark prophecies? But no, I'm confusing her with someone else. I'm doing that a lot with the New Spring names.
Adalorna is the one who gets collared, and Egwene shows up and saves her, and she's like, oh my god, I suck because the Green is not prepared for the last battle at all, and here's Egwene doing the thing.
Is she head of the Green yet? Probably not.
I would no. Although maybe she's definitely. It feels like she's a Green. She's the head of the Green at the beginning of the of the main series. So sometime between now and then, but we don't really know. I don't think she is now currently the head of the Green, but we don't know that for sure.
And then who is Shemayan? That's not Shemarin.
No.
It's not Shiriam.
No.
Who is Shemayan?
Shemayan is Shemayan. Shemayan is in this chapter. Shemayan is in no other chapters.
Cool. That's fun. All right. So yeah, it's pretty obvious that Katara had a lot of foretellings and that stuff is coming to a head now, right? It makes sense that all the rumors are congregating close enough to the truth.
Yeah, just double checking, but Shemayan is this is the only mention of her, as far as I can tell, anywhere in the series. She's just an overheard, just a name. Yep.
All right. So the next thing I've got is the practice sessions, the practice for the test.
Which is Elida's, the normal practice session until Elida walks in and starts, doing an abuse.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the normal Morel and Swan and Moiraine doing their thing, and then Elida shows up and makes it really messed up. And for some reason, she leaves Morel alone. She doesn't make Morel she doesn't make her leave. She doesn't make her also do the weaves. It's just Swan and Moiraine, but Morel is present for all of it.
My assumption is that Morel's not ready. Elida knows these two are about to be called for testing. And, as far as I can tell, she wants them to pass and thinks she is helping. She is legitimately cheating on their behalf here.
Yeah, but I still, why does she not send Morel away? I guess because she just doesn't care.
I think she's literally demonstrating to Morel, this is what you need to do to them. Watch and learn.
Oh, fair enough.
She's literally I will show you how it is done properly, right? That's what she says. Basically, I will show you how to abuse your fellow sisters to help them get a better chance of passing.
Yeah, I guess so. She wants to make sure that these abusive tactics continue.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and
it's the hazing, right? This is absolutely hazing.
It's not worse than hazing. It's worse than what hazing's supposed to be. This really transcends. And she says, we knew how to practice when I was accepted. And I'm like, did you not get raised a mere 3 years ago when I was accepted?
Right.
Shush. We knew how to practice. No, you were abused by a particular person. That's not the same thing as back in my day. It hasn't even been a decade yet. Don't
we know she was abused by a Black Oddjaw sister?
We we know of a Black Aja's sister being abusive to other Reds in her care. I don't recall it being Elida who talks about it, though. Isn't it Tarna talks to Nynaeve about how Galena beat her block out of her?
Yes. And Galena's black.
And Galena is in a position of power within the Red and the Black already at this point. So it would be easy to assume that Galena also beat Elida quite severely to teach her. We don't know that for a fact, but that seems like a very easy leap to make.
I headcanon that.
Yeah, no, I don't think that Elida came up with this out of nowhere. Elida is a remarkably malleable person for all that she's very brittle and stubborn. I don't think that she decided to be an abusive asshole for no reason. I think that was taught to her. And from a very abusive black sister who has inordinate power over her and is shaping up to become the head of the Black Aja at some point, yeah, I could see Elida getting seriously warped in her wake.
And just in terms of numbers, we're talking about 2 or 3 per year to maintain the current number of 300. Moiraine and Suian are the only second and third novices after Elida to finish training in 3 years. So in 3 years, they've had 3 women go from novices to accepted.
Yeah, it's bad. You can see why their numbers are plummeting.
And that's why she's so focused on these 2, because they're the only 2 who have come up through the ranks since she has been Aes Sedai.
So really the only reason she wants them to pass is because she's tired of being the most junior Aes Sedai.
She's tired of being the FNG, the fucking new guy. Like, she's the bottom of the totem pole.
Exactly. She's like, I just need this mantle to go to someone else.
Although, in fairness, she is probably pretty far up in the power structure of the tower simply because she is one of the more powerful Aes Sedai.
It's not like the king.
She's in that top tier of power. And because Aes Sedai power depends entirely on your ability in the one power, she would be fairly high up in the rankings right away.
Yep.
Because we're still on the normal power scale. We haven't gone to the secondary power scale Robert Jordan had to invent. We're still on the White Tower power scale, where Moiraine and Elida and Suian are at the top of that.
Yeah. So yeah, Moiraine survives one attempt and is like, okay, that sucked. And Suian says, okay, thank you. You've showed us that. And then it just keeps going. It just keeps going. And Moiraine makes it to like, what? The 5th attempt is when she
every time she tries she makes it less, and she goes fewer and fewer weaves.
She only gets 3 weaves
she breaks
in,
earlier, it's on the last attempt.
Terrible.
She's like breaking right away.
And then Elida says, you'll live. Suian, it's your turn. And Suian does better. She makes it farther. She makes it to 12 every single time, and all the way up to the 6th go around, does not cry in front of Elida, which I find the stare down energy between Elida and Suian, like that's starting here, right? We're all in Moraine's head for this, and Moraine's the one doing the analysis about the long-term enmity and so on and so forth. But seeing the contest of wills between Suian and Elida through Moraine's eyes, knowing what's going to come for them in 22 years or whatever, oof.
Well, and especially the way Suian is just good at this, right? She doesn't need the practice. She mostly completes it every single time Moiraine throws weaves at her. And I think even when she gets out, like at the end of the chapter, or at the end of this set of chapters, when she is like, easy as falling off a boat, I really do think she means that. Like, I do think the weaves were like easier for her than for Moiraine.
Yeah, but she still only gets to 12 tonight, so I would argue she does still need some degree of practice. Moiraine credits Elida with pushing her to figure it out, so I have a hard time imagining that Suian didn't get nothing out of this.
So that's the question. Is this beneficial, or is this just abuse?
Would they have passed without it? I gotta say, I think that Moiraine would have failed. I think Suian would have passed. I think that facing a level of mortal terror is part of what they need in you to pass the test, and I don't know that Moiraine necessarily would have survived having her first brush with that during the test. Having it happen before might have been kind of vital. I do think Suian would have passed either way, though. I think Suian might have not been as easy as falling out of a boat, but I think she would have passed. I don't know about Moiraine.
I agree.
I don't know about Moiraine, given how hard she struggles with this and how much she, in her own mind, credits Elida with helping her. I don't know.
And then the other question is, obviously the last test is cruel because we talk about that. Are any of the other ones necessarily cruel? Is Elaida making the test harder on Moiraine in general?
Oh, yeah. She says that the constant assaults on her modesty left no doubt. Elaida is also being very, like, psychologically abusive to her with the nudity thing. Because I always thought it was weird that the nudity thing was so emphasized. But I kind of get it if Elaida is specifically trying to go after Moraine's Kyrian and weak points.
Yes,
like, yeah,
that's exactly what's going on.
That does kind of make sense with what sort of a bitch she is.
In the same way that, like, the Aiel kind of poke fun at Rand and, like, oh, you're naked. Oh, no, because it makes him blush, right?
Exactly.
Like, but not in a cruel way the way Elaida's doing it.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I think Elaida's cruelty was threaded throughout the entire test, not just the last one.
I find it very interesting that our main characters are from the most prudish countries in the world, right? Who are the three most prudish countries? You've got the Borderlanders, which is Lan, the Two Rivers, which have, country yokel inappropriateness.
And that's where the Demon's Field 5 come from. And then Kyrian, where Moiraine is from.
It's one of the reasons I like Min so much. She's one of the only sexually oppressed characters in the series. She's like, yeah, I get fucked and I enjoy it. Deal with it.
I mean, she was still a virgin when she slept with Rand.
Fuck no, she wasn't. Fuck you, no, she wasn't. She slept with some of those minors.
But
minors with an E, not with an O.
Yeah, she claims that she was a virgin for Rand, but I'm fine with headcanoning that she was lying.
That's some bullshit. That's like, yeah, totally. I don't know what I'm doing, really, because that's some impressive skills for a virgin.
I know. But Jordan needed to self-insert his sense of sexual morality into that. And so clearly the Vision Girl has to have saved herself for Jesus, even though she's literally older than him.
Elaine and Avienda, I can buy it, right? Avienda is she's a fucking nerd, right? She is into
she's
her
a jock
sports
nerd,
and she's a jock nerd who hasn't had a chance to never socialize and only lives with her sisters who are, it's like being on rugby, right? Like I can understand how one of them wouldn't necessarily date outside the group.
And Elaine's a princess.
So realistically, they're probably all fucked, but
it was a finger bang in a carriage. Thank you very much.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Yes. Underneath my corset. But Min?
Yeah.
Nah.
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
And even Avienda says I've shared blankets with men to stay warm. And I'm like, and that's not a euphemism?
Right.
Okay.
You really, and then when Avienda and Elaine get together, it makes a lot of sense later.
Yeah, and then there's that.
Oh yeah, I can see why the two of them may not have slept with a lot of men before.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, that's why. Yeah, I think Elaine and Avienda together, and then Rand and Min together is sort of how I headcanon that. I don't think be like, how do you deal with Rand's threesome? Well, it's two relationships. They just kind of overlap a little bit.
Yeah. They still share an apartment because have you seen Rent these days?
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
But yeah. And even then, Min still comes from Andor. She comes from a less repressed part of Andor, but
True.
It's still Andor. The truly least repressed of all of them is Berylane. And she gets shamed by all of them for that. So.
Just because she's Italian, right?
Yeah. All right. So Morel gets just as traumatized as Swan and Moiraine from having to watch two of her friends just get beaten to shit. And it's very upsetting.
And I think Morel's the one who eventually goes to the Mistress of the Novices and tattles.
I wouldn't be surprised if Shiriam and Elid and Morel all went together because they were we need to do this together so that way the blame is diffused, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, I completely agree that they're friend or friends, Good Samaritan to them out. I don't think that this was anything more complicated than no, you're not supposed to get beaten bloody every night. And like, if an adult tells you not to tell anyone, you need to immediately tell someone, right? Like, that's the rule, is if an adult does something to you behind closed doors and says, don't tell anyone, the first thing you do is you tell someone. I think that, yeah, their friends are just like, the Mistress of Novices needs to know about this.
This is also like transitory abuse, right? Like, she was abused, so she's abusing them because she thinks it's the right thing to do. Like, it's passing down and it all comes from the Black Ajah, right? Like, this abuse, I 100% believe, is due to the Black Ajah.
Which then makes it ironic that the Black Ajah, Mistress of Novices, is the one putting a stop to it. But that's part of her ruse. That's part of how she is able to do what she does, is she does shut down this abuse because, like, yeah, we understand it's transitory abuse, but also we're shutting this down because we're the Mistress of Novices and we can say that. But
we're also not going to punish Elida in any significant way for doing it, which means that there's no real disincentive for it to keep happening.
But it won't happen to you from her. But the system will continue.
Exactly.
There's no disincentive to other Aes Sedai. There's no conversation with all of the accepted about how this isn't okay. There's no institutional change. There's no anti-bias training. There's no truth and reconciliation program.
And they have a whole conversation here about how, like, yeah, why would you complain? We know the consequences of people who complain. So, you know, it's that, like, if kids are punished for telling the truth, they're going to lie. And these women are children, right? That's the whole point of calling them children, right? They are treated as though they are children. And if you abuse children and then tell them to lie about it, or if you tell them to lie to other, like, it's just like, it's obviously setting up a situation that's rife for abuse because of the power dynamic and the lack of communication and being punished for communicating things. And
yeah,
you know, the lesson in The Boy Who Cried Wolf is that, you know, you should probably keep listening to The Boy Who Cried Wolf because eventually there may be a wolf, right? Like, you shouldn't stop listening.
Yeah. And yeah, the thing where she doesn't get meaningfully punished, they don't quite say why she doesn't get punished, but it almost feels like, well, she's got a very promising career.
And then, okay, here's a line. Had she used Saidar to punish or coerce you, I'd have seen her strapped to the triangle for birching. Yet what she did broke no law. That's exactly what she did. She punished them and corroded them. I'm going to say corroded. You know what I mean. That's exactly what she did. She had. What do you mean? Had she used something? What?
She wasn't punishing them for anything except not being as good at the practices, she said. She wasn't coercing them to do anything except go faster. It's weird tightrope to walk.
It's like, it's not punishment, it's training. Therefore, yeah.
Exactly. It's a very weird. And I mean, we see it later with Egwene when she's getting beaten all the livelong day as correction, right? Like, they have this tightrope. It's a well-worn tightrope that they have in the tower. But it's very weird. And I feel like they should maybe work on their abuse policies. If that's a loophole the size of a barn. Like, come on.
No, and I love how her penance would have been for helping you cheat in the test, but we decided it wasn't cheating, so no penance.
Yeah. And also, if she had been found to make you be cheating, then you would have been disqualified from taking the test, is also kind of implied. And I'm like, so was Elida trying to make them fail by virtue of disqualifying them? Like, what is even happening with this series of half statements? I'm so confused.
And then she's like, is the test like being beat the whole time? It's like, no, but at the same time, you take a lot of damage and you get a lot of injuries. It's not beating, but it is being hurt.
Yeah, it's being beaten in a wider variety of ways than just being hit over and over again. And then she says, I trust you will accept her gift in the spirit it was given. And Swan says, believe me, Aes Sedai, I will. And I'm just like, ooh, that's a two-way lifelong enmity that just got created. Like, Swan doesn't think of it in her deposition sequence because this book hadn't been written yet, obviously, when that happened. But you can sort of like retcon that she was thinking about this while she was processing in that cell.
And I think in that moment, it was clear to me that they had history.
Yeah.
It just wasn't clear what that history was. And this is that history.
This fills it in a way that does plug that spot very perfectly.
Clearly, Elida thought they had gone to the Mistress of Novices themselves. And she had paid the price in humiliation, according to Miriam.
Humiliation. She was confronted by one woman in a closed-door meeting and was made to squirm a bit. That's such a pathetic thing to have a lifelong enmity over.
What was in Elida's eyes a full-blown animosity. They had acquired an enemy for life. I tell you once again, once I gain the shawl, if she ever tries to harm me again, I will make her pay, Suan says.
And she does.
Does she? I don't think Suan does anything.
She trains Egwene to serve Elida her own ass on a platter. So, yes, it's very roundabout. But ultimately, she sends an Egwene in to deal with Elida.
Does Egwene actually do anything to bring down Elida that Elida doesn't do 100% herself? Because here's the thing. At no point does anybody turn on Elida till she's already been captured by the ch7-10.
Well, there is that really sick burn that she gives that, almost topples Elida. It almost goes down, and then the ch7-10 show up before we get to see how that was going to play out. And it was a really sick burn.
It is, but that is one of the things I really kind of hate about her scene in the tower is it's all this build up to her undercutting Elida, and then the ch7-10 show up and just take her off her hands anyway. And it's like what she was doing that whole time was building herself up, but at no point did she actually ever do anything to take Elida down or harm her in any way that Elida didn't do herself or Alviarin didn't do.
She did a lot. It's just that Alviarin and Elida had already done most of it. But no, Egwene puts in the work, and she does it in large part because Siuan trained her to be willing to put in the work. So Siuan built a bomb and sent it to Elida, signed with love, But yeah, she does, unfortunately, get quite thoroughly deposed before finding any way of striking back, which does make this feel a little bit like a hollow promise. Well, not hollow promise, but just sad foreshadowing. Because, yeah.
So then the weather, 1 week to the day... 10 days later, so we get a very explicit statement that a week is 10 days here. And if the boy had been born within those 10 days, what's the beginning? Is the beginning the foretelling? Is that the moment when they're saying that he couldn't have been born before that moment?
No, it's the snow.
It's the snow.
When the snow fell. So the snow falls, and I believe 3 days later is when she has the foretelling. And then 5 days after that, it melts again. Or something like that. I believe that it's all snow bracketed.
I disagree.
Oh, okay. Well, it starts before the foretelling, though. We know that the whisker bar extends into the past from the foretelling.
Why?
Because Tamra doesn't date it to that morning. She dates it to a couple days before, doesn't she?
I'm reading this paragraph. 1 week to the day after Gitara made her foretelling. 1 week to the day. What's 1 week? 10 days. The weather warmed suddenly. Right? So the snow melts 10 days after the foretelling. And then she says that gives us a 10-day window. But I think snow was on the ground before the foretelling.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought that snow was on the ground before the foretelling. And what Tamra says is that the window she's looking for. Oh, but then Siuan and Moiraine narrow it down. Right.
Right. So if snow is on the ground for longer than 10 days, then the snow can't be the window. At least it's the end of the window, but it doesn't limit the beginning of the window. So they have to be limiting the beginning of the window by the moment the foretelling happened.
Yeah.
And they think he was born at that moment or later.
Yes.
Which I don't necessarily, I agree he was born at that moment, but I don't see why it would be later or earlier. It's a foretelling.
Tamra was just casting a wide net, I think. She just wants to cast a really wide net to catch a...
She also didn't want to give away her narrow focus. Right.
Exactly. Whereas, Siuan and Moiraine get to be much more targeted.
I don't necessarily agree that Siuan and Moiraine can limit their search to that 10-day window the way they do. Right? Is there anything to say that Rand couldn't have been born before those 10 days?
I think they just end up concluding that it was at the moment of that foretelling.
Agreed. And I think it was, but the logic is not necessarily consistent.
Yeah.
In terms of when the dragon was reborn.
But 9 days after the thaw, once they're totally done collecting names, once they're genuinely over that task, it's time for the testing.
All right, so that's 19 days after the story has begun.
Yeah, and Moiraine gets summoned first, and we see as soon as she's done with her test, Moiraine goes rushing off to collect Siuan, right? They test back to back. Because you can't have them at the same time. Like, you can't run the tests for 2 people at the same time. They have to go.
It's one ter'angreal, right?
Yeah, exactly. But they can do them literally with like a 10-minute break in between. So yeah, chapter 9. It begins, and our symbol is the 6-pointed star that gets, shown for them to go to throughout the test.
Which I think is just used in chapters where the test happens.
Agreed.
Now, I always find it interesting the way it's shaded in, kind of like a navigation star, but it's like the 6-point. It's not the 5-pointed star that you generally think of as being shaded in, or the 4-pointed star, which is compass directions. Yeah. Or the 8-pointed star, which is compass directions and the halfway in between.
Yeah, compass roses have many different ways they can be stylized. I learned when I was doing map design in the end of my college degree. There's a truly boggling number of compass rose designs out there.
Interesting that Codswain has a 6-pointed star as part of her ter'angreal, and it provides armor protection.
Maybe the 6-pointed star had some kind of like conventional meaning in the Age of Legends to mean like protection, strength, home, stability, something like that. So it's kind of a common icon to use to symbolize that.
The lore says the 6-pointed star is known as the Seal of Solomon in Islam and acts as a protective charm.
Okay.
Interesting.
I mean, remember what must be remembered, and all of that is definitely protective charm energy. And Codswain, obviously, it's literally a charm that gives protection.
I think the remember what must be remembered is definitely protective, because if they remember too much, they can do things they're not supposed to do, and they end up like dying way more frequently.
Yeah, very much so.
I also wonder if like having their memories wiped between each tests help you pass, because if you have the burden of all 99 tests on you beforehand, I feel like that actually makes things harder, because it's just a cumulative pain, whereas waking up fresh every time makes it like, okay, I just have to survive this one.
Right, and they get weary as they go through, and they know what number they're on, and they know that they've suffered. But yeah, the clarity of all that trauma doesn't come crashing in until they exit the dream space. So yeah, the chapter opens with Moiraine being convinced she's going to fail. And then she realizes something that is very parallel to Nynaeve. Again, the parallels between Moiraine and Nynaeve are so strong. She realizes that if she failed and lived, she would still be able to channel, at least so long as she remains circumspect. She can still go out on her mission. She'll still have the book. She'll still have herself, assuming that failing and living both happen. She can still go on the mission. And that's exactly what Nynaeve thinks 20 years later, is if you fail me, I can still go help Rand win the last battle. You can't take that away from me. I want the shawl, but I can still save the world without it.
And that's what makes them good Aes Sedai, because the mission comes above the tower.
Yeah. The fate of the world comes above the pride of the individual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I love the little reference to the kin, right? The sisters said those who sent away all but gave up touching Saidar. And Moraine's like, fuck that. I wouldn't do that. And I bet nobody else would too,
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's why the kin exist, because basically they can't give up. And the tower has sent them away, but they're not going to stop channeling. And so they become part of the kin.
The Aes Sedai want to believe that their institution is so precious and all-powerful that women would rather give up the power than pretend to be knockoff Aes Sedai. They would rather believe that than acknowledge that there's a secret society of women who just channel on the down low, because how could you ever give up the power, you idiots?
Right. Especially considering what happens to gentled women or stilled women, right? They stop living rather than give up the power for the most.
Oh, but the loss of the prestige of the tower. I guess I'll just give it up and forget forever because I didn't get my diploma. Like, that's so arrogant.
Right. But I can see where it parallels a lot of physician practices, right? The idea that if you don't get your degree, you really shouldn't be a practicing physician, and you should like not be giving people medical advice, even though many people still become chiropractors.
Yeah, well, I would argue that the power is very different than being a doctor.
Yes, as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. But again, the White Tower is...
I do think of the kin as like the acupuncture of the doctor.
But they actually do real things.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's... And I think it's cool, too, that Moiraine has this fear of failure, and then this realization that failure doesn't mean she'll fail to save the world. She's just going to fail to graduate, which, I mean, discounting the notion of dying, obviously. And then as she actually walks into the test, she's thinking to herself, she will not fail. Like that moment of realizing that she will still be Moiraine Damodred, woman who can channel with a book full of names, gives her the confidence to be willing to actually believe she can pass.
Right.
Sometimes letting go is the best way to hang on, strangely.
Knowing you don't need it, right? Same thing with job interviews. Don't go into a job interview desperate. You'll never get the job.
Sure.
Right. And that I feel like is sort of what she does here, where she's like, oh, I don't actually need this to be successful. I'm going to do my best, but it takes off the pressure. It takes off the need to succeed that may lead you into acting desperately and making mistakes.
I would argue it's kind of the same with relationships too, right? If you're so desperate to be in a relationship that you'll overlook anything, that's not going to lead you into good places. But if you're like, no, I am me and I can live on my own if you cross too many of my boundaries and have too many red flags, and I know that about myself. Okay, so they get down to the very lowest level of the tower. They look at the oval ring. Elida's there, much to Moraine's consternation. And then we have our Egwene parallel moment where she goes to, undress for the ceremony and then realizes she has incriminating paperwork in her pouch and it's very awkward. And oh no, what will I do now? In Egwene's case, it's the files of Dark Friends and their ter'angreal that they stole, as well as the dream ring from Corian and Nadil. In Moraine's case, it's just the names, the book of names. But either way, they had this extremely parallel moment of going, I hope no one looks through this paperwork while I'm in the magic ter'angreal. And then she just has to leave it there and go for it and hope. And you were saying you think this was looked through?
I think it's the point at which she gets targeted by the Black. I think Moiraine has an idea that she might be on the hunt. Well, no, I guess that doesn't really work, does it? Because if they knew they were on the hunt, they would have just died. They would have just died. You're right. I was thinking that's how they get involved with Moiraine later, is she targets them because she thinks they may be involved. But yeah. No,
she targets them because they're sniffing around her mark, and that's what clues her into them maybe being involved.
Right. So yeah, okay, fair enough. I wanted this to be something they got to look through. Because again, I think Varen looked through.
Varen's not in Egwene's test, and she already was the one who handed the folder over anyway.
Right. But I thought we came to the conclusion that somebody looked through her information, that maybe Elida looked through that stuff while she was...
I don't think so, because Elida was also at that test, but she was, again, involved in the operation of the rings. And that in that case, it was the accepted test, not the Aes Sedai test. But
Right. Yeah, and I guess that's the question. It's how involved... Obviously, they're channeling to make it happen, but, are there long periods of time where they're kind of waiting? Is it they take turns and one person's involved or the rest are sitting around waiting for that person to finish up their test? Because it does seem like one person sort of steers each test.
Yeah, we never get a sense for how long it takes on the outside.
Hours?
It seems like, because the Aes Sedai are usually pretty tired at the end, which does imply long, sustained channeling.
And we have a somewhat idea from how long it takes Suian to come back from her test, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I kind of imagine it's pretty much real time, that there's not a big time difference between the inside and the outside, despite being Tel'aran'rhiod, because it is being monitored and watched and controlled from the outside. So, if she has to channel for 10 minutes to beat a wave of Trollocs, that takes about 10 minutes, and assuming an average of 10 to 15 minutes at most per level at 100 levels, that's 1,000 minutes. Divide that by 60, so what's 100 divided by 6? I can do math. Yeah, so around 15. Oh man, yeah, I mean that's a lot of hours, right? You can anywhere from, if it's 15 minutes per level, that's 25 hours. That's too long.
So say 5 minutes.
Right.
So 500 minutes. So that's closer to 10 hours.
10 hours, yeah. Still, between 8 and 10. Yeah. I'm assuming some of them are pretty quick, like a minute or so, that cuts down. But still, I mean, you're talking 8 to 10 hours of just continuous work on the part of these channelers. And then they do it twice in a row.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
You gotta wonder how many Aes Sedai they're swapping out. Did Elida really do a marathon session to be able to torture both of them? Probably.
Yes, 100%.
I wonder if any of the other Aes Sedai were like, nah, I only want to do one test per week. It's exhausting. I have shit to do.
I do imagine that there's a certain amount of like, yeah, testing is fucking exhausting. Probably one of the major duties of the Mistress of the Novices would be to provide a power for the testing and be there for a lot of the testing.
And also to help manage the Aes Sedai for being appropriate batteries for that. Yeah.
Right. Surprised there's not more circles going on, but...
You'd think that circles would be involved in something this intensive. All right, so yeah, she puts on a mask of calm because that's all that matters when you're an Aes Sedai. And we really see the dichotomy between a face carved of calmness and stillness and Moiraine just absolutely like running around with her hair on fire on the inside, which, you know, makes you wonder about how many times she stares coolly at Rand while internally she's just, you know, screaming into a pillow.
Mm-hmm. And we're just at the point where this is still a struggle for her. This is, I think he's trying to say this is not the Moiraine that you see later in the series. This is someone who's still young and struggling and trying to find her feet underneath her.
But it's also like the first emergence of the look of the future of Moiraine.
Yes.
She's getting that mask in place with shaking hands, but it is the mask that we see later.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and in a lot of ways, what we see later is Moiraine becoming the mask, whereas now she's just putting it on.
Yes, absolutely. We recognize it, but yeah, it does not affix to her face quite as solidly as it will in 20 years.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff about the ceremony and the gate, the remember what must be remembered, the way the gate like spins, it's an oval ring.
With the sound of stone grating. This is the version where, without the slightest sound of stone grating, right? Remember we had this whole discussion with Nynaeve's test where it's like,
right.
Wait, but there's stone grinding in Brandon's version, and it's not here. It's not here. There's no stone grinding sound because it's magic.
It's also floating.
But in Sanderson's version with Nynaeve, it is not floating. It is grinding. And yeah, we go launching off into the first vision, and I noticed in this first vision, I don't know if there's any other time when we get to learn what House Damodred's colors are. Red, green, and white is House Damodred's colors. She is Christmas colored.
It's Christmas.
House Damodred is the Christmas house. She's a holly tree in the snow.
So layman Santa?
Wow. Exactly, Samanasai. They're just walking Christmas trees. So yeah, we go through this whole putting on her clothes and then having them get taken away again. And the conflict of the first vision is three men being gross. And she just deals with it.
Yeah. It's the naked thing. They keep throwing the naked thing at her. They want her to break because she's ashamed of being naked. So.
And like every time we have one of these White Tower tests, whether it's for Accepted or for Aes Sedai, it starts with a nudity test. Every single one of them starts with well, what do you do if all your clothes vanish? And then with Moiraine, it continues pretty steadily, again, because Elida is specifically there pushing that button. The second vision, she has very uncomfortable clothes, right? The opposite of her fancy noblewoman's clothes. And this is the one where she gets wrapped in bushes and a bunch of spiders come at her.
Burns spiders, yeah. Death head spiders, which are basically black widows, right?
Yeah.
They have skulls instead of hourglasses, but I kind of think of them as the...
Yeah, they're black widows for sure. And then the third vision, she has this weird, like, walking down a corridor thing, which I imagine that's probably takes all of, like, 30 seconds in the real world because it's a dreamy space and it's just a corridor walk, so whatever. And in this third vision, she gets to see her first Trolloc.
Yeah, first Trolloc ever. She discovers what they look like.
She had seen drawings before, but had never seen one in the flesh. And we know in Nynaeve's vision, when she sees Trolloc, she's like, ooh, those are being made by someone who's never actually seen a Trolloc. Like, the visions are wrong. So I do wonder how accurate Moraine's first vision of a Trolloc is, given how rare of a sight they are, even to Aes Sedai. But either way, she identifies it as a Trolloc correctly and, does a very fun way of dealing with this one, where a whole bunch of Trollocs are pouring at her, and she does something that, again, so many parallels with Nynaeve.
It's very many, yeah.
She uses the weave itself as well as her body to multitask, basically, right? She dances in order to keep track of the weave and also to be blasting fire and lightning at the Trollocs as she is working on the weave. It's a very, very cool visual of her doing this courtly dance while just all the death, all the exploding chunks of cauterized Trollocs flying by, and she's just humming and skipping, and it's great.
Similar in the first vision when she uses the first weave as a wall to keep the leery guys away from her. She's actually using the first weave as the thing that protects her.
Yeah, and Nynaeve does a lot of similar stuff in her test where you just make it bigger, you make it fierier, you make it more concussive. And yeah, so again, the two of them are very similar in a lot of ways.
I don't remember Nynaeve splitting her weaves off. I just remember her using the 100 weaves as her weapons, right? Because I remember she's like, I can't channel, I can't use anything else.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, Nynaeve uses the weaves themselves. Whereas, yeah, Moiraine is doing an incredibly dexterous thing where she's doing 3 different things at once with the power.
Exactly. Which feels different than what Nynaeve was doing. Even though I feel like Nynaeve very much could have split her weaves, I think she didn't.
Well, think about it. Nynaeve is way, way stronger than Moiraine. Moiraine has to be clever and flexible and dexterous with her weaves, whereas Nynaeve can just keep turning the knob to the right until it fixes the problem.
Turn it up to 11.
Yes, very much.
Nynaeve.
Very much. I think she actually goes to 12. I also just love her. She's like, in some ways the dancing helped. And I'm like, yeah, of course a somatic component to your magic is going to make it more effective. Duh.
Which is why she throws with the fireballs, right? Like someone found that level of like movement helps. But then the problem is you get trapped.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she sees the next doorway that leads into the Blight. Only madmen entered the Blight. And she bails in the direction of madmen. And thus we can transcend from her 3rd test to her 99th, or to her 100th test as we transition to chapter 10. It finishes, and the symbol is mice. Swan's mice, one might say, because, putting mice in the bed.
Oh, yeah. But the mice are often used for like dark friends as well, right? Because it's first used when Ishamael kills all the mice in the inn.
Yeah, that is different. I just was like, clearly this is the prank mice, obviously.
Right. And I assume that's why they used it. Like, it's not supposed to be for the Dark Friends, but...
There's nothing particularly dark friendly in this chapter.
No.
But yeah, we skip from the 3rd of her tests to the last of her tests, because we don't need to see 99 tests. We know what her basic fears are. We know what the world before the Supergirls show up is like. We can imagine. We know that Elida's doing a lot of attacks on her nudity. We know that she's being hit with a lot of things that would make her a spoiled Princess City girl, squeamish and afraid. She's being faced with all kinds of existential fears and threats to her life and being forced to leave people behind. Like, we can imagine. But we don't see it. We don't see anything until we hit her 100th. We do get a bit of a montage. She found it in riverstones, on mountainsides, in a city, in a forest, in a swamp, in farms and plains, in a marsh, in hovels and palaces, right? She's everywhere. She's being tied up. She's being hunted. She's being bitten. She's being lynched. She's being assaulted in all kinds of different ways. And then we get to the very last one, and this one is going to be emotional instead of physical.
Just FYI, the only other time this chapter icon is used, as far as I can tell, is in the Gathering Storm, and it's a Suan's POV.
Really? This didn't even get used for figs and mice?
No.
Huh.
This is the one where she's falling in love with Bryn and admitting it to herself.
Oh, she thinks about a mouse prank in that one, too. She would forgo the mice this time.
She tells Bryn the truth about the foretelling and the Dragon Reborn and Tamara being murdered. So she's telling this story to Bryn. And in that chapter. And so that's when this is brought up.
It's the only 2 times they use this logo, this icon. Wow.
Unless it's in Memory of Light, because that's the only one that Encyclopedia Watt hasn't indexed.
Wow.
Yeah, you would think it would be used more.
I would. All right, so yeah, let's prepare for emotional damage.
Emotional damage, emotional. Guess how many chapters the wheel and the snake icon are used for?
1 billion.
There's not quite that many chapters in the Wheel of Time, but close.
400?
Closer.
275.
Getting very close.
Really? 250?
Well,
300?
81. 81. There's 50 chapters per book, right? So there's
hundreds of chapters.
somewhere around 700 chapters.
Okay, so 400 was a little. If you told me how many chapters there were, if you told me out of 700, how are many?
Out of 700,
I probably would
yeah.
have guessed like 30%. So that's what of 700.
That's like 220, 230.
Yeah, I still would have gone too high. Is what I'm saying. Being honest here, I still would have gone too high.
It's closer to 10%.
Okay.
But still, 10% of all the chapter icons, 1 out of 10 is the snake in the wheel.
All right, so this last vision is pretty quick and simple. Moiraine's father comes out and says, "You need to come with me. Your mother is dying." And she says, "Nope, not going to my mother's deathbed. I'd rather be Aes Sedai." And that is really intense emotional damage. But again, the mask is getting on better and better, and she waltzes on out of her test and is praised as having survived a pretty harsh test. Not the hardest anyone's ever seen, but pretty harsh.
But Elida definitely kicked it up a notch.
Yeah. I think Moiraine got like the top 10% of rough sides of her tests. Anaya is here, very kind, motherly blue who's been around since forever. And she's like, "You're not in as bad of a state as some I've seen, but bad enough. Like, you know what Nynaeve is going to go through, but this is rough."
And just FYI, the 6-pointed star icon, chapter 9, and Towers of Midnight, chapter 20. That's it.
Because those are the 2 Aes Sedai test chapters.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, cool. Oh, yeah, Varen is holding all of Moraine's stuff. So there is a chance that Varen knows about the book.
There we go. I knew somebody read it. I was like, in my head, somebody read this goddamn book. Varen did. And I was saying Varen read Egwene's, but I was getting them mixed up. Varen read the book.
Yeah, Varen already knew what Egwene had, so it was irrelevant.
Right. Exactly. But no, she read this book, and that's why Varen knows, right? Varen knows. That's why she shows up in the Great Hunt. To be there because Varen knows exactly what the quest is that Moiraine has been on for 20 years. And so when she shows up with this boy, she's like, Dragon Reborn, done.
Right, because first of all, she has been a Dark Friend for 20 years at this point, right? When she dies, she's been an Aes Sedai or she's been a Black, or was it 70 years that she was Black Aja in the present day?
Yeah. So
okay,
it's like 50 years at this point.
She has been a Black Aja for 50 years. She's been a Black Aja for more than twice as long as Moiraine has been alive. She has been a Black Aja doing her subterfuge thing. She's already got her notebook cipher with the plants and all that. So when she knows through a variety of means that the dragon has been reborn and that Tamra is looking for it and that Moiraine and Suan look awfully purposeful and that there's this list of names, she doesn't need to tell. She's just like Tamra. She doesn't tell anyone. She doesn't make a report. She probably barely even notes it in her ciphered book. I mean, she probably does note it in her book, but she knows. She knows. She sees that little book and she goes, "Those two fucking looking for the Dragon Reborn, and I'm going to stay out of their way because I want them to succeed. And if I don't say anything, then it doesn't count. And the Dark One never has to know that I knew that, but I know that I knew that." And probably this is also part of how she confirms that Moiraine and Suan are not Dark Friends, because that's part of the work she's doing right now, right? Is building her roster of who is a Dark Friend. And obviously these two can't be Dark Friends yet because they are still accepted. But yeah, Varen knows. Varen 100% knows. There is 0% chance that Varen picked up that pile of clothing and belt and did not somehow miraculously figure out what that book was. Varen knows.
And again, they are in there for hours, right? Whether it's between, 2 to 4 to 10 hours, something in that range to get this test done. Plenty of time to be like, I'm going to take a break and flip through the book and see what's inside of it and put it back and show no evidence.
Yeah, presumably occasionally they have to pee, right?
Right.
Or does the trick against ignoring cold and heat also extend to ignoring your bladder?
Only if you want to burst bladder, which is a serious health issue.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You can't stop your kidneys from producing waste. So
in the same way that they don't stop themselves from being burned by the sun, even if they don't feel the heat.
Right. Yeah, so presumably occasionally an Aes Sedai needs to go take a piss break and
or get healed.
Presumably it's frowned upon to ruffle through an accepted's clothing and possessions, but can't be that hard. So, yeah. She gets healed.
and is really tired because that's what the healing of the time does. Makes you hungry and tired.
She mentions that the last test was very cruel, and Anaya says, "We don't process our trauma in the tower. Shush."
We don't talk about it. Yeah. But she uses that statement to get Yuan to sort of glance at the door which Elida left through to confirm that, basically she's using body language to confirm information.
Yeah. Yeah. And Mirren hurries out to go get Swan. Elida heads out, I guess, to watch Swan get brought down like a goose for the slaughter. Yeah, Anaya and Varen take her back up, and she just kind of waits for hours. Shiriam and Morel have this like instant distance with Moiraine because she passed, and she's now no longer an accepted, and so this like gulf opens up. And what is the line? Friendship was at an end until they also gained the shawl.
And then I don't think they're as close friends because they come back and there is that distance that remains even after they are all back to the shawl, right? That's why she and Suan remain closer than Shiriam and Myrelle.
Well, also, Swan and Moiraine have this secret that they're acting on once they get the shawl, and they're never willing to share it with anyone else. And like that transition for their friends happens at basically the same time. So it really amplifies the effect.
Why do you think Elida was so hard on these two?
I don't know. It feels arbitrary that she decided she was going to be this kind of a hard ass to two women who were clearly never even going to pick her Aja. I've never quite understood what the true inciting incident for her obsession with them was, because it predates the start of the book, right? They already have a history when the book opens, and it's never made clear to me why. I think Elida thinks she's doing good for herself and the tower, but it feels like that rationale is already lost in the mists of time by the time that this book starts.
So we see her do a Matt in the tower scene where she eats all the food on the plate, even though it's way too much.
Yeah. They were very good about getting a warm tray of food to her because, someone went ahead to say, hey, yeah, we've got a, new Aes Sedai who's going to need some healing food. And yet Moraine's like, I'm a tiny little thing and I eat fastidiously. I could never eat a whole loaf of bread. She scarfs it, absolutely inhales every last crumb.
And then takes a break and reads a little bit of romantasy.
Which is adorable. She's like, this book isn't suitable for novices, but it's fine for me. Me and Swan love to read romance novels together in bed.
There's so many references in this book to the White Tower girls reading smut. Like, just constantly.
The girlies be reading smut.
They really do be.
It's not a new thing, actually. The girlies have always been reading smut.
That's what I'm like. Like the fact romantasy is having its moment right now in the pop culture, but it has always been around.
Yeah, it's just the things girls like get capitalized on later than the things boys like. Mm-hmm. And yeah, she is unwilling to go to bed or leave because she wants to be there, if Swan fails and comes back to get kicked out or whatever.
It's like when your coworker is being fired, you're not sure if your coworker is getting fired and you want to wait at their desk because they're just going to be able to collect their belongings and go. And if you're not there, you'll never see them.
Right. Yeah, totally. And instead, Swan shows up and says, like it was hard.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she really is like easy as falling out of a boat, which is like
into a school of Silver Pike, mind you.
Right. She probably got cut up. She definitely needed healing, right? But I don't think she had any trouble with any of the 100 Weaves.
No, she probably mostly had trouble with literally not dying from a crocodile or something. That was probably the worst test, right. Was like literally when a crocodile almost ate her leg.
I was going to go with Trolloc, but a crocodile-headed Trolloc?
Yeah, crocodilian. Named Florin.
Yes.
Also, there's a furious blush from Swan, and we know in Moraine's reflections that one of her tests was a very handsome man who began kissing her very aggressively. So one assumes that Swan also had a sweep off your feet make-out session kind of test she had to get through.
And one assumes it wasn't just making out.
Kissed very thoroughly does sound like quite the euphemism.
Uh-huh.
I feel like there was at least some heavy petting also. And then, they get to sort of realize, like, we are going to get raised together. We are going, like, we can't talk about our traumas and all that, but everything else we're going to get to keep doing together. Obviously, we know they literally get raised at the same time, like holding hands. It's one of the sweetest, most amazing things ever. And, yeah, Moiraine says, so do you want to, like, eat and sleep? Because, that's what normal women do. on this night of all nights? And Swan says, fuck no, let's do a prank. I have mice. Let's put them in Elida's bed for being such a cunt.
It's like knowing your 18th birthday is tomorrow. And it's like, we're minors for one more night. We can get away with one more crime before they can catch us and charge us as adults, or Aes Sedai.
Yeah, it's really one of the last silly things Swan ever does, as far as I can tell. It's cute and bittersweet.
And they get caught and punished for it.
Yep, some of the only Aes Sedai to ever get raised with their bottoms still sore from a paddling administered to accepted. I mean, pseudo-accepted, but still close enough.
But I do like that Moiraine says, we're going to eat first.
Yeah.
Like, you need to eat, right? You need that energy. You had healing.
Yeah, it's, she's slightly more domestic and caring and aware of physical needs of the two of them. And, their rationale is that Elida deserves it for everything that they did to them. And Moiraine thinks, without Elida, she might have failed. And so she almost doesn't know if Elida deserves a prank, but also the whole thing with her father was cruel. So, fuck it, let's put mice in her bed. And, it's a sweet last moment of childhood before they launch into their full adulthood as sisters.
And I think a really good laying out of what a typical Aes Sedai testing and raising should look like, right? Like, I think it's really important that made it in the text. It was one of the, besides Nynaeve's, which is anything but normal, right? This gives us a baseline for what a normal, for as many Aes Sedai as we have, you'd think we'd have a few more of these testings going on.
Yeah, I would have liked to see this once or twice from a farther off to the side character. Maybe to see how the big characters figure in the visions of a more bit part player or something.
But it's amazing how often the tests for Aes Sedai and Wise Woman both give you visions and information that you might not otherwise have, right? She gets to see a Trolloc for the first time, that sort of thing. So
yeah, with that, I have nothing else to say other than giving us a bit of a readout.
Sure, yeah, read us out.
Practically sisters isn't the same thing as being, Moiraine. Think. It's our last chance. It really won't be proper once we have the shawl. Swan's grin faded to grimness. And Elida hasn't been out of the tower that I know. Mice are a small repayment for those beatings, Moiraine. We owe her. We owe her. Moiraine drew breath. Without Elida, she might never have practiced trying to weave faster. And without that, she might well have failed. But she suspected her father had not been Elida's only special addition to her test. Too often, her weaknesses had been laid bare by someone who knew them particularly well. The woman had tried to make her fail. Only after you have eaten, she said. Pulled that off in less than 2 hours.
Nice. Good stuff. Really love the Jordan of it all.
Yeah. That was good. I do love a good Aes Sedai test, whether it's for a magical woman test, whether it's, to get halfway to the ranks, to get all the way into the ranks. I love the visions where our characters get put into a metaphysical ringer and we get cool prophecies and details and stuff out of it. It's just always so good.
They're always some of my favorite chapters, the way he pulls them off. They're so good. But on that note, I think we're not going to try and cover 2 more chapters today. I think 6 was a mistake.
It was.
It was. But we are 10 chapters in, and doing some more next week. I don't know how many, but we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. See y'all next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app, and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. Want Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.